Oh, stop playing. The sacrifice of the winner is admirable, but everything makes Harry very sad. Welcome to the Princess Diana News YouTube channel. Well, I'm not going to criticize the Invictus games. I mean, this is the best Prince Harry we've ever seen, and it's almost impossible to really criticize the role Harry played in his birth, appearance, and victimhood. It's a new 5-part Netflix documentary series that highlights Prince Harry's work and achievements. The organization, however, as always, has a lot to say when it comes to Harry. So maybe I'm being too picky. Maybe I'm being too harsh on Harry, but anyway, the first thing we need to talk about is the almost empty language Harry uses in all his active performances. It's a didactic tone that suggests no one else is doing anything but him. And episode 4. We heard him say that the world needs to remember the strength of the human spirit, as his keynote address at the 2022 away game in The Hague demonstrated. What the hell is he talking about? I mean, who's writing him this crap? I thought, being a salad junkie, I had a great idea. I mean, how could one completely ignore something so obvious? Every day, millions of people are inspired by the power of the human spirit. In fact, I don't think there are many people in this world who can say they have never been moved or inspired by the humanity of others. As Harry says, I mean, how many people are walking around here? Yes, the human mind. There is nothing to see. It doesn't surprise me that Ginger Turd is really the saddest of all, is it? But the idea of games did not come from him alone. Instead, they are borrowed games. He cannot take full responsibility. Just like everything else. The truth about Harry is a bit dodgy at best. His reputation in the army depends mostly on the victor, and in fact, the show about Harry shouldn't be that way. I worry that his involvement and always talking about himself will ruin the cause, but anyway, back to the human spirit. I mean, there are many examples. Think of the recent plight of Pakistani students who got stuck in a broken cable car. I mean, they were saved by a daring rescue operation. What happened to those 4 children who survived alone for 40 days in the Amazon rainforest? They ate the fruit they picked. I mean, the human spirit is there, and it feels good, like being hurt or misunderstood. I'm sorry, but Harry can't say it's his and no one else has been through it. See, it's really his problem. He seems to be the only one who had problems with his family. I don't know if he feels more worthy of attention, but in the end he really is less worthy of attention. He becomes despicable because he develops a sense of victimhood, which is not attractive given that he is the only person in the world who has ever suffered. Now, to his credit, he does a good job of shining the spotlight on these soldiers. These brave men and women with life-changing injuries. These people were hurt and disfigured in the service of their own countries for doing what their government asked of them. And that is never something to scoff at. And what I really love most about Invictus is that it gives us a chance to really look at them in the triumph of their lives instead of trying to look away, and makes us really consider the sacrifice that they made for freedom and for us. But it does take a special kind of able-bodied, healthy person to bear witness to the limbless and the wounded, the double amps as they call them, the blind, the maimed, and then dare to talk about losing his mother when he was a 12-year-old boy. Harry, come on, you know better, but apparently he doesn't. I mean, being able to cry in one episode, not feeling it, and that's a theme he keeps coming back to. Seriously guys, what is wrong with him? Why is it okay for him to talk about his mother's death? Not that it wasn't a sad event, but still, it's about the soldiers, not him. But anyway, he also says when it all came fizzing out, I was bouncing off the walls, and then he said he was lying on the floor in a fetal position, and he took the opportunity to whine about a lack of support from his family and how they should have offered therapy to him earlier. So throughout all 5 parts of this well-produced series, there are multiple trigger warnings about mental health problems and encouragement for people who are in torment to seek help. But after all the years that he supposedly spent in therapy, is Harry really the best person to advertise its benefits? I mean, just look at him a lot of times. It sounds like he's just stuck in the same old loop of negative thoughts, and some of his explanations were just he said. I found myself I now need to get a glass jar and put myself in, leave the lid open, and my therapist said you decide what goes in and everything comes out. Oh well then, thanks Harry, I'm glad we now honestly understand, guys, what was he even talking about? And I'm not trying to entertain the people who participate in the games. You are incredibly inspiring, and we learned early on that the prince saw wounded soldiers when he returned from Afghanistan in 2013. So he wondered how he could ease her trauma and give new meaning to her broken life. He thought that sports would be the best way. And yes, it was a great idea. I admire his inspiration. I admire the energy with which he made this vision a reality. This is something to be admired. So let's compare what Prince Harry has done with Invictus to any of Prince Andrew's philanthropy. He said, "You will clearly see who is the best here. I've been trying to do Harry justice, that I try to like him, but then he says something that makes it literally impossible. The guilt game he likes to play is not just a game. I really enjoy that Harry is convinced that the war in Afghanistan and its military casualties have now been exposed by the British media. Not only is that not true, but it's lazy and disrespectful to tell all the war reporters who risked their lives to cover the conflict, and many of those people never came home. I understand that Harry is at war with the British media and has no intention of giving it up, but his ignorance shows that he has never read a newspaper. Harry's charming, supportive but really weak presence. Now Meghan attends a few Invit meetings. She wears a scarlet ball gown to go with Harry to a veterans gallant in New York in episode 2, and she describes him as my incredible husband in episode. And I guess in some ways I agree, he is incredible, isn't he, not only for allowing himself to be introduced like that in the very first episode as a humanitarian environmentalist, mental health, wellness advocate and military veteran. Harry, oh well, does not sound impressive. What a resume that is in the end, though. Heart of Victi is a search for validation and healing as much for Prince Harry as anybody else. But last time I checked it wasn't supposed to be about him. Wouldn't it be nice if Harry could just let Invictus be what it's supposed to be and stop using it as a little pity party for himself? I know his emotions might tell him otherwise, but Harry doesn't, and he won't be the last person to lose a parent at a young age. Harry also looks like his future brother, Prince William, also lost his mother and was not that much older than Harry. Just think of all the stories you've heard of families torn apart by car accidents and maybe a parent and a child or two surviving. Imagine how hard it must have been for him, but look at Harry talking about how terrible his life was. How unfair it all was, how tragic and painful it is. It shows how out of touch he is with reality. It's a shame. Big contests shouldn't be limited to Prince Harry's problems. Harry just can't seem to get over the fact that he grew up so well. He's living an incredibly privileged life. Most people lose their parents when they are very young. No, I'm saying that everyone except William, who was also deprived of his parents at a young age, was not allowed to grow up in the royal family. They were less privileged than Harry, and no one acted like Harry and betrayed their family and especially their elderly grandparents. I never hear a single word of compassion from the people I know who have experienced something like this. To be honest, I have not seen or heard from other people who have suffered such losses, who feel sorry for themselves. Maybe he was always like that alone. This pity party seems to have taken a turn for the worse since Meghan came on the scene, so maybe it's less of a focus on Harry and maybe better for the future. Unfortunately, it seems that Harry is really using the Invictus games to make it all about himself and his problems. He and Meghan turned it into their next ad. Veterans deserve so much more, and I hope they ask Harry to step down and let someone with integrity take over. It wouldn't be right to let him be in command because that's how Harry would always act. He has been shielded from reality all his life and always tries to play the victim. Harry was really too young to feel the full impact of losing his mother, and he was too busy to talk to him when she called him. I mean, he doesn't know it's going to be the last, but I think that's part of the reason he feels so guilty. You see, Diana wasn't usually with her kids the way most mothers are. She just knows how to do some really good things. This is important to everyone. Everything revolves around these soldiers. both male and female. It's not that Harry is so selfish and spoiled that he has to draw all the attention to himself. He always tries to bring that back into his stories. He has to take into account that people don't want to hear his story anymore. And you? What do you think of Harry and Meghan? Please share your opinion in the "if you like my video, don't be afraid" section below. I feel free to share them with others who need them. Don't forget to subscribe to our Princess Diana newsletter to support us more. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend and we'll be back in the next video.